So happy everyone could be here with us this afternoon. Just a reminder for all of our participants and attendees, you all are in listen-only mode. We're also streaming this to Facebook Live, so you will be able to check it out there during the program. With all that, I would like to introduce our moderator for today's panel, Rodney Bullard. He is the Executive Director of Chick-fil-A. Rodney, handing it over to you.
Alexis, thank you. Good morning, and good morning to everyone who is joining us. I am here in Decatur, Georgia, and I am, like you all, social distancing and sheltering in place. And as I do this, you know, I'm reminded that this truly is a tough time, and that this is a time of concern and a time of anxiety for a lot of people. But I'm also encouraged. I'm encouraged because this is a time in which we see so much leadership and so many people coming together. And so I want to thank the Atlanta Area Council of the Boy Scouts of America for their leadership and for this opportunity to bring people together, even though it's virtually. It is bringing folks together. And so thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being a part of this panel. We have some great panelists for you today, and we're very excited. And so the purpose of today's meeting, it is important that our families, our communities, and our world is united during times like this. And we are going to discuss how we can be united through reverence, what it looks like for us as individuals, our families, and our local and global community. And we have some great panelists today who are going to offer their views on reverence. And so some of the voices that you will hear from in a few minutes are Dr. Randy Reiser. Dr. Reiser is the founding partner of the Physician Spine and Rehabilitation Specialists of Georgia. We also will hear from Mr. David Moody. Mr. Moody is the CEO of C.D. Moody Construction. We will hear from Mariela Romero. She is the Regional Community Empowerment Director of Univision Communications. And then we also will hear from Peter Heinzelman, the CEO of Cobb EMC. And then finally, you will hear from Mr. Tracy Jennacalee, the fearless leader of the Atlanta Area Council, Boy Scouts of America. And so before we get started, I want to remind viewers to use the Q&A feature to submit prayer requests to offer uplifting comments throughout the program. And so I'm going to ask Tony Rosenberg to please join us and start us off in prayer.
Good morning and good afternoon, whatever time zone you are from. Good morning, good afternoon again from whatever time zone you're from. A Scout is Reverent. Let us pray. With reverence in our hearts, we, your children of many beliefs, united in a common purpose, gather to offer our humble prayer and thanksgiving. We are thankful for the many gifts and talents given to our fellow Scouts and to ourselves. We are thankful for the freedom we have to join together and as a team to accomplish more than any of us could alone. We are thankful for the opportunity to be of service to young people, parents, and our community. We are thankful for the joy of seeing so many young people become excited as they grow and are able to overcome challenges. And most importantly, we are thankful for the gift of knowing that our prayers are heard. With thanks in our hearts, we offer our prayers and ask that you be with each of us until we meet again. In each of our God's name, we say, amen.
Thank you, Tony. We appreciate you covering us in prayer. So folks, let's get started. You may have been wondering when you saw this event being advertised, what does it mean to be reverent? And why would we even use that word? So to help us answer the question, we have a very special guest who is an unnamed panelist, but she is a very special guest. Her name is Abby Baldridge, and she is going to answer the question of what it means to be reverent. Hi, Abby, how are you?
Okay, I'm good.
Very good. You look very good in your uniform.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. Can you answer the question for us, what it means to be reverent?
Yes. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. A scout is reverent, but what does that mean? The dictionary defines this as a feeling or showing deep and solemn respect. For scouts, it means being faithful in our religious duties, respectful of the beliefs of others, and caring for others.
Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
You did a wonderful job. Deep and solemn respect. And you got a few spectators back in the back as well. They did a wonderful job too. So we're going to start with our first panelist. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Randy Reiser and ask him to give a brief professional background and then also give us his thoughts on being reverent.
Thank you, Rodney. And thank you to everybody at the Atlanta Area Council who made this program possible today. You know, scouting has been a huge part of my life, both as a boy and as an adult. I was a scoutmaster for 10 years, and I'm the proud father of 2 Eagle Scouts. The promise I made as a scout to help other people at all times played a big role in my choice of a career in medicine. And doing my duty to God and my country was at the front of my mind when I raised my right hand to volunteer as an Army doctor after our country was attacked on September 11th, 2001. I want to share with you a story today that something that happened to me when I was in Iraq in 2008. I was an anesthesiologist working at a combat support hospital and doing combat surgery during a time of an offensive known as the Surge. And during that time, I cared for a lot of soldiers who were wounded and for some who died. And like many people in that situation, I asked why. Why, God, would you do this? A chaplain on the post gave me a little book to read. It's called Trusting God Even When Life Hurts by Jerry Bridges. And the message in that book really has stuck with me. And I think the message is especially important to us today with what's going on. In short, the message is God is all powerful and God is all good. And those two things can never be separated. So everything that God does in the universe is for his glory and for our good. But also, God works everything according to a plan. And his plan involves us. But we cannot be part of God's plan unless our heart is open to receiving his guidance. So ever since that time, to me, being reverent means asking one question. God, what do you want me to do? It's interesting, you know, we can go for days or weeks or even years and not be aware that God is in charge or that he has a plan for us. But when bad things start to happen to good people, then we start to ask why. Why is there an earthquake? Or why was there a terrorist attack? Or a pandemic? Or why do our friends or loved ones have to die if God is all good and God is all powerful? I think it's amazing at this time to think that it's just the rearrangement of a couple molecules on a single strand of RNA in a virus that has led to all these events. You know, it's not wrong to ask why, though, but it's probably not the best question we can ask because that answer is often beyond our reach. But a question that we can ask and an answer that we can get is the question about what God wants us to do. We've already seen during the past few weeks examples of God's plan for people working in so many ways. People searching for the cure to the virus, people caring for the sick, people reaching out to friends and loved ones, or even people that they don't know, with simple acts of kindness. People looking out for people who are alone or scared. I've received such great stories about Scouts in action, collecting food, working at making masks, and even writing letters to people in nursing homes who are alone. In fact, this program that we're in right now is possible because God's plan is at work in each of the individuals involved. So each day, I try to continue what I started doing in Iraq. I first remind myself that all God does is for His glory and for our good. And then I ask God, what do you want me to do now? When this is over, I have no doubt the world's going to be different. I believe that we'll also be a better people, though. A better people in so many ways as a result of God working His plan through us. Thanks for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Dr. Reiser, thank you, my friend. I very much appreciate Dr. Reiser, thank you, my friend. We had a little bit of technical difficulty there, but I very much appreciate your service in the military. I was in the Air Force myself, and so from an airman to a soldier, thank you for your service. I very much also appreciate what you brought to us, trusting God when life hurts, trusting God even when life hurts. And then that leading us to the question of, what do you want us to do next? And so it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. David Moody. And Dave, I know that you have written on your own personal struggles, your own personal triumphs, and I would appreciate hearing from you about reverence and your thoughts on this day and age.
Thank you very much, Rodney. And my name is David Moody, and I'm going to share a few personal comments with you. I started in scouting in 1965, started as a Cub Scout, then became a Boy Scout. I was a den leader, board member, and past president of the council and sit on the national board. So scouting's been in my blood for a lot of years. But scouting played a very key part in my life that was so important. As many people know, I've written a book and speak about being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And it was scouting that actually, to me, saved me, because it was those camping trips, going out in nature, understanding the importance of faith. And it just taught me so much that I could weather what I was going through, because I didn't tell anyone. I buried what had happened to me and kept it secret, and I basically suffered in silence. But when I was with my scout troop or scouting, I always felt good. And I think that's why I love nature today. But it also taught me so much about the importance of self-reflection, of getting still, being still. You hear that often. And we must be still and allow ourselves to feel what God has in store for us, all the beauty that God has put around us. Just like this pandemic, being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, you could question, God, how could you let that happen to me? But by sharing my story, I've also helped so many people who would have suffered in silence or maybe even taken a destructive lifestyle. But being reverent and being a scouting helped me so much on this journey. Also, be patient with yourself and forgive yourself. There were times when I blamed myself for letting that happen to me as a child. And as an adult, and through what I learned in scouting, I learned that I needed to forgive myself, more importantly than the person who had abused me. And it was not a scout person who abused me, it was someone out of scouting. Scouting is what saved me. But when I forgave myself and allowed myself to be free, I felt so much better. And some of the practices that I use is getting out in nature and being still. And I'm gonna close with this. 3 years ago, I took an 8-day rafting trip down the Grand Canyon. And like most people, I'm addicted to technology and my cell phone. But in the Grand Canyon, you can't use any of those things. They don't exist. And by day 3, I realized something as I slept next to the Colorado River without a tent for 7 nights. I realized something, that I didn't hear any negative noise for those 8 days because there was no internet, no cell phone. It was just the beauty of nature. And 3 years ago, I woke up on Sunday in the Grand Canyon. It was the most beautiful sunrise I had ever seen. But that trip taught me the importance of being still and get away from technology at least for an hour once a week and just be still and listen and rejuvenate and be thankful. And we are going to survive what we're going through. And thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for those encouraging words, and thank you for reminding us that being still is definitely a critical element of finding obedience and reverence. We're going to take an opportunity to go to the comments from some of our viewers, and I want to remind you that there is a Q&A feature, and that we would love for you to offer prayers, offer commentary, and so if we could go to our comments.
Yes, Rodney, we have some good participation from our audience. Stephen Vault wants to thank everyone for doing this. Rodifi Fear says, great job, Abby. Abby, you did an awesome job. Thank you so much. We do have a prayer request from Ray Thomas. Ray would like to pray for spouses and children of first responders for the establishment of a free helpline as a place for these folks to go to for comfort when loneliness sets in as their loved ones are away from home working in the front line. Yes, thank you so much, Ray. And David would also like to say specifically to you, Rodney, and to Randy, thank you both for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Alexis. And so now I'd like to go to our good friend, Zachary Bryan, who was a scout in Troop 213, charted out of the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. Zachary, how are you doing? I think you're on mute, Mark. There you go.
My name is Zachary Bryan, and I'm based out of Troop 213, out of Ebenezer Baptist Church. I'm a current senior at Druid Hills High School and plan to attend Morehouse College in the fall. I display reverence to others through the golden rule of always treating others as I wish to be treated, and also by doing my best to help others in need. An example of this was 2 summers ago when we were whitewater rafting in the Nantahala River and heard a mother scream for help. We instantly turned around and saw that a young scout had fallen out of his raft. We knew instantly that we needed to help him. When we turned around, we were able to position our raft in the way of the young scout, and I was able to reach out with my left hand and pull the scout in. I knew then that that was the hand of God and the strength of God. When you put yourself in the position to help others, God will be there to help you. During this time, it's been a little rough, not being able to graduate on time in terms of not having a formal graduation and walking across the stage, and not being able to participate in a prom and all the other senior events that I've worked so hard for. However, my faith is still strong because I know that God's presence is still here in this situation of the coronavirus. It's given me a lot more time to spend time with my family that I wouldn't have had before going off to college and reflect on who I truly am. And also, it's given me a lot more time to praise and worship God on a daily basis and grow my relationship with Him.
Thank you, Zachary. I appreciate all that you're doing. Congratulations on being accepted into Morehouse College. I know that you will do a wonderful job there, and go Tigers. So at this point, I want to take an opportunity to talk about some of the things that we're seeing going on in our world right now. And obviously, we turn on the news every day and we are counting the number of people who are infected by COVID-19. And unfortunately, we're also counting the deaths. And we're seeing communities that are fragile, and we're seeing communities that, frankly, are not able to stand up to this disease. And we're seeing that, quite frankly, social distancing is a privilege. And we're seeing companies and we're seeing people engage. And so I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by the signs that I see as I walk the neighborhood that say, stay strong, and how neighbors are speaking to one another more than they have before. And so there are opportunities for each and every one of us to continue to show reverence for God, but also show reverence for God by showing reverence for one another, by showing reverence and fellowship and connection to one another. And so it's an honor to bring on my friend Mariela Romero. Mariela, do you mind giving us your thoughts on being reverent?
Thank you so much, Rodney. What a great reflection. I'm also very thankful for Zachary's testimony and Dr. Reiser's and David Moody. As you mentioned, I'm a Community Empowerment Director for Univision, or Univision, like you correctly said, Rodney. My role is to inform our audience. And I am the direct link between organizations we serve, like the Boy Scouts, and the people in need of those services. So as you can imagine, we have been receiving an immense amount of calls with people in need of guidance, people in desperate situations for these unprecedented times. So I'm going to tell you about how we are responding. I am responding to this pandemic in my professional background. To give you a little bit of history, I used to work for CNN, and my first day there was September 11, 2001. And I never thought that I was going to live through another event of that magnitude. You know, September 11th was a painful, somber time, but we saw the world in solidarity with the United States. And what we are going through right now with this pandemic is similar in that, you know, this is creating a lot of news, and it has a lot of people in a situation of reflection and asking, why did God allow this to happen, and how are we gonna survive this? But like in September 11, when we had the unity of the world towards the United States, right now we are seeing the world in the same boat. We are on the same situation worldwide, and we feel like we are on the same boat, all of us. And I believe that this is the moment where we can reflect. This is a moment where we can ask, what is our purpose? And this is a moment to show reverence for our Creator, for something that is more powerful than us. And like David was mentioning, it is a moment for pause. It's a moment to be still. And also to be grateful. We are seeing people responding. We are seeing the heroes of our community. Right now, everybody's talking about the doctors and the nurses. They are giants in this effort. But we are also seeing other types of heroes, people who have been in the most humble positions of our society, the people who continue to work in our fields and are making sure that our food supply continues, the people who fill and clean our grocery stores and clean our hospitals, the people who are vigilant in our cities and keep protecting us. So I believe, like David was saying, and Rodney as well, the world is going to change, but we're going to see a different paradigm, and we're seeing more acts of kindness, we are reminded with this moment that we all are together and we are all connected. So I'm going to share a little bit of the impact also that I'm seeing in the community, not only people in desperate situations because of the insecurity, financial insecurity, but also the mental health aspect. And a lot of people looking for answers and looking for a way to calm themselves down. So I think opportunities like this to speak, to pray together are extremely, extremely important. This is also an opportunity to have our kids close. I have a 20-year-old boy who is having his college classes at home. He is the reason why I came to the Boy Scouts, and I fell in love with the program, and I am very, very grateful to be part of the board. During this time with him, we are, every day we take a moment to reflect on the situation we're living. And I think these are lessons that we can share with our kids that will ever be still for their whole life. And it's an opportunity to create character and to show ways of, to be a leader. And I believe the Boy Scouts are showing us the way by putting something like this together. And I'm very, very grateful that I was able to speak about this and share my perspective, not only as a news person, but also as a mother and also an immigrant to this country. So thank you for this opportunity.
Mariella, that was excellent. Thank you. I particularly appreciate you calling out our heroes, and that there are a number of people on the front line. Yes, those in our hospitals, those doctors and nurses, but also those who are continuing to bag groceries, those who are driving buses, those who continue to be in jobs that are essential, and that we realize the essential nature of them much more than we ever have. So thank you for that. Peter, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, and I look forward to hearing your remarks, my friend.
Thank you, Rodney. It's a pleasure to be here with all these great speakers. My name is Peter Heinzelman. I'm the president and CEO of Cobb EMC, which is the member-owned electric that serves the northwest corner of the metro area, and we're also the owner of Gas South, and of course I'm on the board of the Boy Scouts. Scouting was key to my childhood, as I was a child of divorce, and so it was really scouting that gave me the introduction and the access to the outdoors and all the skills and discipline that scouting offers. And so it has a big part of my life, a big part of my childhood, and all of that has stayed with me, and I'm really proud to be involved. It's been a while since Abby gave us the definition of reverence, and I'll give you a little bit of a reminder that reverence is a feeling or a showing of deep and solemn respect. It's adoring, synonym-wise, it's adoring, worshiping, loving, and respectful. And as humans, we're really created to be connected to our source and to care for one another. But as scouts, we know we are reverent, but that means different things to different people. And so, what does that mean to me? Well, I've been very fortunate to be able to travel the world for work and for fun over the last 20 years working overseas. And I've seen a lot of different things, which are really interesting. I've spent time and I lived in the Middle East, and I understand Islam better than I did before. Thailand and Buddhism, Judaism, and other religions. All the while educating my family of the various, about the various sects, the dress, and the traditions that are meaningful for all those various religions. And they're all different religions, but they all have one thing in common, or a few things in common, really. One is, they are reverent to God and to others. Again, it's adoring, worshiping, loving, and respectful. They have a focus on community, being kind and helpful to others, and giving as much as you can. They also give us, they also have in common having a set of standards that give us guidance and structure in our lives. And they also allow us to feel tremendous joy from serving others and a higher power. And so what that means to me is that this is a time to be thankful and empathetic. I mean, we are all fortunate in so many ways, while others may not be so fortunate. And also to be focused on what is important here: family, community, others in need, and knowing that we thrive when we help others, right? And a focus on the natural outdoors. I talked about my childhood and the outdoors, and I think all of us Scouts think about the outdoors, but refocusing on the natural outdoors and that quality time with family. You know, I do echo the comments that nature takes us back to what's important, and I really love it, and I know you do too. And then lastly, using this time to constantly improve ourselves. All the things we said we do to improve ourselves in terms of reading or languages or skills or volunteering or whatever, you know, those are all a wonderful thing. And this gives us an opportunity to do that. And I think that really is part and parcel of reverence. So the time for all of this is now. God wants us to be joyful, reverent, respectful, and helpful to others. And I know we'll all do so. Thanks for letting me share with you today.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your comments and very much for your leadership. Before we get to our next panelist, Mr. Tracy Jennacalee, Alexis, can you see what we have in the Q&A? Do we have additional comments and prayers?
Yes, we do, Rodney. Let's see. Well, Zachary, Russ wants you to know that you are so impressive, that your words spoke to what is best about Scouting. So thank you for speaking your heart. We do have a prayer request from Kenneth. Kenneth is asking us to pray for his father, who's a former Scoutmaster, Leslie McIver, Sr. So we're praying for your father. Let's see, we also have some prayer requests coming through from Facebook Live. Sylvia wants us to pray for those suffering from anxiety and depression and are having a difficult time sheltering in place during this pandemic. And Cliff wants prayers for all to be safe and God bless. And we also have some kind words from Lori Champion. Hi, Lori, saying thank you for this wonderful fellowship today. So those are the requests that we have and comments we have so far.
Thank you. And thank you all for commenting. Please continue to do so and keep it coming. And so now I would like to introduce Mr. Tracy Jennacalee. He needs no introduction as he is the CEO of the Atlanta Area Council for the Boy Scouts of America. Tracy, how are you?
Doing great, Rodney. Thank you so much for being our host and moderator today. You always come through. You assume so many leadership roles for Atlanta and our nation, and we're honored that you're taking the lead. My first message is to thank everybody for being a part of the Atlanta Area Council team today. It's a big team, and you're needed now more than ever. I mean, if you just look at who is on our team: Rodney, Tony, Zachary, Abby, Dave, Randy, Mariella, Peter. What an awesome team. That is the group that makes up the Boy Scouts of America and tens of thousands of more people. Scouting shaped my life as a scout and today as a leader and as a servant. I'm so appreciative of all the people that volunteered, that when my brother and I both had the chance to become Eagle Scouts in our little small Boy Scout troop a long time ago, fundamentally shaped our lives. I'm going to pull up one of my favorite books in a minute here, but you know, we have a couple of authors on the panel today, and I went to my bookshelf to pull one of my favorite books up, and I found two of my other favorite books. So Heroes Wanted, Mr. Bullard's very fine book. I thought about that with Mariella's comments about us being thankful for those that serve in the background of our lives. And David's book, Fighting Through the Fear. David is a survivor, past council president, very courageous man and a good friend. But the book I want to reference today is this 100-year-old handbook. This is the Boy Scout Handbook. The Scout Oath and the Scout Law have the timeless values today that it's had for 115 years, serving over 130 million Americans. The founder of the Boy Scouts of America, Baden Powell, concluded the Scout law with "A Scout is reverent." Why did he do that? Because he wanted the final point, the exclamation point of the Scout oath and the Scout law to be "A Scout is reverent." I'm going to read from the book here. It's just one sentence. A Scout is reverent. A Scout is reverent towards God. The Scout is faithful in religious duties and respects the convictions of others in matters of custom and religion. Let me read that last part again. The Scout respects the conviction of others in matters of custom and religion. Wow, that's powerful. For me, reverence is being true to my beliefs, but respecting the beliefs of others. The current and future challenges facing humanity will be successfully led by people that live all 12 points of the Scout law, especially "A Scout is reverent." The Atlanta Area Council is helping tens of thousands of parents raise their children to be reverent and respect the beliefs of others. Our thousands of Scouts and leaders across Atlanta subscribe to the concepts of the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, and they recite it weekly. And when you say something weekly in front of your friends and your peers and your parents, that sinks in and you internalize, our Scouts internalize the Scout Oath and Scout Law, and to be reverent and respectful of others. This makes me so grateful to be a Scout. It makes me grateful for each of you on our panel today, each of you tuning in, and the tens of thousands of people that make up the Atlanta Area Council Boy Scouts of America. With that, I'd like to turn this back over to our good friend, Rodney Bullard. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you, my friend. You know, as I think about this time, I think about reverence, and I think that this is a moment in which we will look back with deep and solemn respect. And I want to take us back 106 years. And Alexis, if you wouldn't mind putting up that image that you and I talked about earlier. And 106 years ago, the world was in the midst of World War I. And on Christmas Eve, 1914, a moment occurred that was so reverent, that was so solemn. This picture that you see now was later created. This image, this statue was later erected because on Christmas Eve 1914, we were engaged in trench warfare, and on one side were the British, on the other side were the Germans. And the British began to hear on Christmas Eve a song that they didn't know the words to, but they understood the melody. And it was Silent Night. And at some point, the Germans were engaging in singing Silent Night, and the British also started to sing Silent Night. And everyone put down their guns, and then they began to get out of their trenches. Now, they weren't 6 feet apart. They were about 100 to 200 yards apart. And they came. And even though their prior objective was to kill one another, they engaged in this connectivity, this connection that is still remembered today, that is commemorated by this statue in Britain, that's commemorated really by this whole notion that we are different, that we are sometimes entrenched in different places, but quite frankly, we are more alike than we're different. And if you think about our time today, prior to this pandemic, we have been entrenched in our own views, our own ways, our own places, our own ways of life. But now it's ironic. We are all facing the same invisible and silent enemy. Doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, doesn't matter your demographic, doesn't matter anything about you in particular. We are all the same. And this disease can impact us all the same. And I think that even though we are 6 feet apart, we are closer than we ever have been. My hope is that after this pandemic is over, after we can come out of our homes and once again join hands, as you saw in that picture, that we do not forget that we are together and that we remain as close as we are now. Alexis, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. Each and every one of us. Thank you, panelists, for your comments. Thank you, Tracy, for your leadership. Thank you, those behind the scenes who put this together. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all for joining today's meeting. Webinar is now over. Thank you so much.